World War II was one of, if not the most consequential war in history, and it is estimated that more people died in World War II than any other war in history. Also, being one of the more recent major worldwide wars, new technologies were used which led to significant amounts of destruction throughout the world. Many different relations between countries changed as a result of the war as well, so let's take a look at some of the most consequential effects of World War II. As mentioned before, technology had advanced, leading to enormous amounts of destruction, and especially in Europe. Most of the major combatants on both sides were in Europe, which meant that a lot of attacks from both sides occurred there. For example, the Royal Air Force from the UK sent bombing raids over Berlin, while the Luftwaffe from Germany did the same over London. On top of that, the Nazis invaded most of the continent. All of these attacks and bombings reduced many cities to rubble, leaving the whole continent weakened. During the war, many of the European powers had forced their colonies to fight alongside them. This led to the idea of starting revolutions by many people living in those colonies. This and the fact that the colonial empires had been weakened by the war resulted in an era of decolonization and the independence of most countries across Africa, South and Southeast Asia. With these colonial empires weakened, there then became only two nations left standing as the world's superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. The United States was a capitalist democracy, while the Soviet Union was a communist autocracy. This led to the Cold War, in which the Soviet Union aimed at promoting communism across the world and spreading it to as many countries as possible, while the United States, through the Truman Doctrine, attempted to contain communism and prevent its spread by fighting proxy wars. Going back to Europe, the Western Bloc nations which promoted capitalism were effectively split from the Eastern Bloc, which promoted communism, by the Iron Curtain down the center of Europe. The Western Bloc nations formed the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, along with the US and Canada, while the Eastern Bloc nations founded the Warsaw Pact with the Soviet Union to strengthen their alliances. Germany was divided into West and East, which were capitalist and communist respectively. With all of these competing alliances and the arms race in the Cold War, many powerful and rich nations were looking to invest in nuclear weapons. In the Manhattan Project, the US had invented the atomic bomb in 1945, which they used on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending World War II. The US then lost its nuclear monopoly when the Soviet Union developed one in 1949. Since then, different countries started developing their own nuclear weapons to compete. Any conflict between nations possessing nuclear weapons or involving the use of them would lead to mutually assured destruction. For this reason, to preserve and maintain peace between nations across the world and avoid such a cataclysmic conflict, the United Nations was founded in 1945, replacing the League of Nations which failed to prevent World War II. Since its founding, it has maintained international peace and security, given humanitarian assistance, protected human rights, and upheld international law. It has so far been successful in preventing the use of nuclear weapons as they have never been used in war since World War II.